The world didn't end with a bang, it ended with silence. Streets once roaring with life became graveyards of echoes, and I stood in the middle of it, realizing I was one of the cursed survivors. They said the virus chose randomly. They lied. Adrian had been just another college kid in Chicago, drifting between classes, bars, and half-written essays. But the day the pandemic swept across America like wildfire, he discovered something inside him he never believed could exist, something ancient, primal, and terrifying. It wasn't a gift. It was survival sharpened into his bones. And then there was Noah. Sweet, stubborn Noah with eyes that looked like they could still find stars in a sky choked by ash. If Adrian was fire, Noah was water. If Adrian carried rage, Noah carried hope. Their collision wasn't gentle, it was violent, desperate. As if fate shoved them together in the ruins of a country that had collapsed overnight. The first time Adrian saw him, Noah was cornered by raiders inside a looted grocery store, trembling but refusing to back down. Adrian should have kept walking. He should have let the world claim one more victim. But something snapped inside him, and in a blinding surge of heat and power, he sent the raiders sprawling with a force that cracked the tiled floor. Noah stared at him like he was both savior and monster. That was the beginning. Adrian's body ached from the aftermath of using his ability. He had no name for it yet, only the sensation of molten lightning tearing through his veins. Every time it came, it left him gasping, shaking, and afraid. He wasn't human anymore, not fully. Noah followed him after that night, insisting he couldn't make it alone. "You don't even know me?" Adrian snapped when Noah tried to walk beside him down an abandoned interstate, where rusted cars stood like tombstones. "I don't need to," Noah said quietly, adjusting the backpack that looked too heavy for his slender frame. "You saved me. That's enough." Adrian cursed under his breath, but he didn't send him away. Maybe he was weak. Maybe he was tired of walking through empty towns alone. Or maybe it was because Noah's presence made the silence less unbearable. They made camp in a collapsed barn in Iowa weeks later. Rain hammered against the roof, and the smell of wet earth mixed with the faint smoke of their tiny fire. Noah sat cross-legged, flipping through a water-damaged book he'd scavenged, lips moving soundlessly. "You still read?" Adrian asked, sharpening a piece of scrap metal into something resembling a blade. "Yeah. Why wouldn't I?" Noah smiled faintly. "The world didn't end inside my head." Adrian studied him, the curve of his smile illuminated by firelight. He hated how much it pulled at something inside his chest. He hated even more that in the ruins of everything, he was starting to believe Noah's stubborn hope. But with hope came fear, because in this new world, Omegas like Noah were hunted. The government never admitted it, but everyone knew the virus wasn't natural. It awakened secondary genders in people, twisting biology into something brutal. Alphas, betas, Omega Sit was no longer just science fiction whispered in obscure forums. It was real. And Omegas, with their rare ability to bond, became targets. Property. Weapons. Adrian had seen what men did when they found an unclaimed Omega. And Noah was one. Adrian realized it the night Noah's scent shifted, soft and dangerously sweet, clinging to the air until it wrapped around Adrian like invisible chains. His body responded before his mind could catch up. Heat, hunger, a primal pull that made his blood roar. He staggered away from the fire, fists clenched, sweat dripping from his temple. "Stay back," he ground out, voice ragged. Noah's wide eyes filled with guilt. "I didn't mean toit just happens. I said stay back." Adrian roared, sparks flickering along his skin, the barn's wooden walls groaning under the pressure of his power. Noah froze, hugging his arms to his chest. He looked small, breakable, and terrified, not of the raiders, not of the world, but of Adrian. And that broke something in him. Adrian forced the power down, forced the hunger back into the pit of his stomach. He couldn't be like the others. He wouldn't. "I'm not going to hurt you," Adrian said finally, voice hoarse, though the words felt like an oath carved into stone. Noah nodded slowly, but the distance between them that night felt like miles. Days bled into weeks. They found shelter in an abandoned high school, where lockers still held crumpled notes and faded photos. The world outside was still collapsing fires, screams in the distance, flashes of violence, but inside those walls, something fragile grew. Adrian patched Noah's scrapes when he stumbled on broken glass. Noah forced Adrian to eat when he pushed himself too hard. They argued, they laughed, they sat in silence. And in that silence, Adrian realized he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living because of Noah. But danger was always near. One night, as they searched a pharmacy for supplies, a group of armed scavengers surrounded them. Their leader's eyes lit up the moment he caught Noah's scent. An unclaimed Omega, the man sneered, licking his lips. We just hit the jackpot. Noah's fingers trembled as they gripped Adrian's sleeve. Adrian's vision went red. The next moments were chaos, metal shelves splitting apart, glass shattering, bodies hitting the floor with sickening thuds. His power erupted uncontrolled, ripping through the building like a storm. When it ended, the scavengers lay unconscious, maybe dead. Noah clutched his arm, eyes wet, whispering his name over and over. Adrian collapsed into him, breathing hard, his forehead pressed against Noah's shoulder. Don't look at me like that, Adrian rasped. Like I'm your savior. I'm not. I'm dangerous. But Noah's arms tightened around him, fragile yet firm. Then I'll stay until you're not afraid anymore. Adrian didn't realize until much later that it was already too late had fallen. By the time they reached the outskirts of Denver, whispers of settlements began to spread. Safe zones where survivors gathered, where Omegas could register and live protected under new laws. It sounded like salvation. It also sounded like chains. Adrian didn't trust the word protection. He'd seen too much of how power twisted people. But Noah wanted to believe. Maybe this is our chance, Noah said one night as they watched the distant glow of fires against the mountains. Maybe we don't have to keep running. Adrian looked at him, at the hope in his voice, and felt torn in two. Because what Noah didn't know was that Adrian's power wasn't just survival. It was destruction. And sooner or later it would destroy him too, or worse, the person he loved. And that truth haunted him with every step closer to Denver. The safe zone was nothing like the posters promised. Behind the barbed wires and armored gates of Denver, the air was heavier, thick with rules, contracts, and an invisible leash that curled around every Omega who entered. Men in uniforms eyed Noah too long, their pens scratching notes whenever he walked past. Adrian's fists itched to ignite, but Noah's hand in his calmed him, reminded him that violence here could cost both of them their lives. At night, Noah whispered his doubts. It feels like a cage, even if they call it a sanctuary. Adrian pulled him close against the thin mattress of their assigned room. That's because it is. Noah pressed his forehead to Adrian's chest, listening to the uneven beat. Then let's run. Adrian's throat tightened. Running meant exposing Noah to scavengers, raiders, and hunters again. Staying meant watching him shackled by laws designed to protect him but never truly free him. There was no right choice, only the one that hurt less. And then everything changed. The council wanted Noah registered officially. Adrian was summoned to the hall, forced to stand as strangers dictated Noah's future with cold voices. Unclaimed Omega, rare, high value. He must be paired with a stable alpha. For his safety, of course. The words sliced into Adrian's skin. His power hummed beneath the surface, begging to be unleashed, to burn every smug face in the room. But then Noah's voice rang out, trembling yet defiant. I already have an alpha. Gasps rippled through the hall. Adrian's head snapped toward him, stunned. Noah's blue eyes locked onto his, unwavering. It's him, Noah said, pointing. Adrian. Adrian's heart lurched violently in his chest. The claim hung in the air like thunder, daring anyone to strike it down. A councilman sneered. Proof. Before Adrian could speak, Noah stepped forward, his hand finding Adrian's. His fingers interlaced, warm and trembling. This is my choice. My bond. Adrian's throat went dry. He should deny it. He should protect Noah from being tied to someone as dangerous as him. But when he felt Noah's grip, desperate and certain. He couldn't let go. Then let them try to take you, Adrian growled softly, his power flaring just enough to make the lights above flicker. They'll see what happens. That night, in the privacy of their room, the silence between them was heavy, loaded with unspoken words. You didn't have to, Adrian whispered finally. Yes, I did, Noah answered, voice shaking but steady in conviction. Because if I don't claim you, they'll force someone else on me. And I'd rather die than let them. Adrian's chest constricted. He cupped Noah's face, thumb brushing the corner of his trembling lips. You don't understand what you're asking for. I'm not safe. You're mine. Noah interrupted, tears welling but his gaze unyielding. And I'm yours. That's enough. The dam inside Adrian broke. He kissed him, fierce and desperate, as if the world would rip them apart by dawn. Noah kissed back, pouring all his fear, defiance, and love into him until Adrian's power surged uncontrollably, spilling sparks across the room. And for the first time, Adrian didn't hold it back. He let it burn because with Noah in his arms, the fire didn't destroy. It illuminated. But happiness was never simple. Word spread quickly. The Omega had chosen, and his Alpha was not sanctioned by the Council. Whispers turned into threats, threats into plans. Adrian felt eyes on them wherever they went. Then came the ambush. Soldiers stormed their quarters at dawn, tearing them apart from each other. Adrian fought, his power cracking walls, but the tranquilizers they fired sank into his veins, dragging him to the ground. The last thing he saw was Noah screaming his name, arms outstretched, before being dragged away. Darkness swallowed him whole. When Adrian woke, he was chained in a reinforced cell. His body ached, drugged and weak, but his fury was alive. He didn't need to guess Noah had been taken to be reassigned. Adrian roared, the sound echoing like a beast inside the metal walls. Sparks bled from his skin, rattling the chains until smoke rose. They thought they could cage him. They thought wrong. Every ounce of pain, every scar the world had left on him ignited into something pure, unstoppable. The shackles snapped, the walls buckled, and Adrian rose like a storm unleashed. He tore through the corridors, soldiers scattering like leaves in a wildfire. He didn't care about the alarms, the bullets, the screams. Only one word pulsed in his mind, louder than everything. Noah. He found him in the ritual hall, dressed in white, trembling as officials prepared to mark him with another Alpha's claim. Noah's eyes widened when Adrian burst through the doors, his figure framed by crackling fire and smoke. Adrian, the world slowed. The officials shouted, soldiers raised weapons, but none of it mattered. Adrian's power exploded, ripping the hall apart in a blinding surge. He stood in the wreckage, chest heaving, eyes burning as he looked at Noah. Come with me. Noah didn't hesitate. He ran straight into his arms. They fled Denver that night, the city burning behind them. Their bodies ached, their futures uncertain, but their hands never let go of each other. Days later, when they collapsed in the wilderness under a sky finally clear of smoke, Noah pressed against Adrian's chest, whispering through tears, You came for me. Adrian kissed his hair, voice breaking. I'll always come for you. Noah lifted his head, blue eyes shimmering like dawn after endless night. Then don't just come for me. Stay. Forever. Adrian smiled through the exhaustion, through the weight of everything they had lost. He brushed his lips softly against Noah's, sealing the vow with fire and tenderness. I'm not going anywhere. The world was still broken. The virus still haunted every breath. But in the ruins, they had carved something invincible. Adrian no longer feared his power, because he finally understood it wasn't destruction. It was protection, and Noah was his reason to wield it. Together, they walked into the horizon, two survivors bound not by chance, but by choice. In a world where humanity had fallen, love had risen fragile, stubborn, and stronger than any fire. And this time, Adrian knew. Love would not burn him alive. It would save him. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.